So thanks, B4B Revenue Labs, for having me here. I mean, we've been having a lot of number talks, so I'm here to talk about people, which I like to think are the most important part when we talk about sales. I currently serve as the Chief Commercial Officer at BudPay. I've been in the fintech space for a little over a decade in terms of sales and sales leadership. Before that, I was pursuing a career in public policy and international development. Interesting switch. Story for another day. Okay, so quick. Story time. What's been your best or worst hiring experience? I knew. Okay. Do you want to share with us? Is there another mic?
My worst hiring experience.
Wow.
No, now I'm saving
I
the
hope
best.
somebody
I'm
has
saving
the
the best for the last. I got carried away by the quality of LinkedIn posts and Twitter thread. Apparently, it's all beans. Yeah, it's all beans. And my best hiring experience. A friend from uni reached out just around as COVID was winding up that knew the year might have been hard. I wanted to invest in the business and all of that. He used to work with NHS, do tech there. Around that time, I was trying to hire for a CTO too. So rather than invest, I brought him on board, and it's been one of the most game-changing hires I've had over the past 2-3 years.
Nice. Nice. Okay.
Okay. First of all, I've never had any good hiring experience when it comes to salespeople.
Okay.
Yeah, salespeople. I just want to be specific. Salespeople.
Wait, sorry. Just so I can clarify, you are a sales leader, head of sales, salesman?
No, I'm a
you are a
founder,
founder.
yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, go on.
So even currently, I don't have a salesperson on working with me because it's either they tell me that God will provide the leads, or they they find a way to. Okay, so like one experience. So I was given a list of people by my sales manager at the time. Oh, these are the people we've spoken to, who've onboarded them. Just go and meet them at this place. They want to meet you physically. And we go there, and hey, where are you? They are not here. I've been waiting. They just cancelled though. And we found out that those people do not exist. Yes.
Okay.
Finessing a lot. Yeah.
That definitely has to be the worst. Wow. Okay. I mean, I do understand that it can be quite difficult finding good salespeople. Also because they are salespeople, right? So they'll sell you at the interview, only for you to realize, it's like he said, it's all beans and very hot beans. So yeah, that can be. I mean, I've had a terrible one as well. I mean, the guy had, this was maybe 7 years ago. The guy had like good companies, right? He transacts this, that on his CV. And then from his first merchant engagement, I'm like, it's not possible. Who was your boss? It's not. I mean, simple things, simple frameworks. Oh, we need to engage the merchant. Can you put this together, put this data together to engage your merchant for a BD meeting? And it just seemed like, so I then checked with HR to see, did we do background check? And no, it was not completed. And I said, no, there's no way that this guy. So yeah, I've had really bad experience. And I mean, I'll talk about how I do that today. Yeah, so I mean, great sales teams, they don't just sell, right? So when we talk about sales, for a very long time, honestly, I didn't even want to be known as a salesperson. even though that's what I was doing, just because there was an idea about salespeople, and that they just sell you, they say, oh, can you sell ice to an Eskimo? Those things. They just talk and talk and talk, try to push things or shove things down your throat. But it's not like they're really solving any problem or changing anything or making your life better. So for the longest time, I didn't want to be referred to as a salesperson. I mean, you can call me BD or partnerships, something that seems a bit more sophisticated. And but then, of course, again, going through it, I then realized that, no, actually sales was defined wrongly, right? Sales was defined wrongly. For a long time, working on the streets, acquisition was called sales and things like that. So sales was actually defined wrongly. So sales is not just about selling. It's not just about trying to get people to buy something. It's about solving a problem. It's about building trust and building relationships. I like to say that salespeople are the most sophisticated and intelligent people in an organization. Imagine all the things they have to manage. Understanding their company, the services, the products, everything, how it works, the ops, the finance, everything. And then understanding the market and all the players in the market, understanding their competitors, understanding who their clients are, everything. And then trying to merge what they've understood from internally with what's happening externally and then create value. I mean, that's a lot, right? So that's just to say how important that role is, even as we think about how do we build a team. So it's a very sophisticated and critical role. So I just wanted to get a few thoughts around this. When people say it's not about the car, it's about the driver. How many of us agree or disagree with this statement? And how many of us agree with this or disagree with this statement? And and maybe you can tell us what it means to you. Okay, so we have one hand at the back, and I thought I saw another one.
I think it's both about the car and the driver.
Okay.
Because you can drive a good car and then the driver can be bad, but you can have a bad car and the driver can also be good.
So you think it's about both?
Yeah, I think it's about both.
Okay. Awesome. There's someone at the...
It's definitely about the car.
Oh, wow. Okay, tell me.
I'm just going to speak with my industry, right? I'm into printing and production.
Sorry?
I'm into printing, right? And so if my machines are bad, they're old and outdated, no matter how great the operator is, the production final output is going to be bad. So it's definitely about what you ride. I mean, yeah, we understand the experience of a driver, but if you can't compare a Ferrari to a Beetle, right? And we're doing 100-meter drag racing.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. The lady at the back had been raising, she's in white. No? Not anymore? Okay, so let's just take one more.
What driver?
Sorry?
What driver?
What? Good question. What driver? Yeah, exactly. In that case, the car is the driver. All right. So, I mean, when I think about this phrase or this quote, we're all right. Yeah. One, in this space where we are, where we're talking about sales, the car will be the processes, the tools, the products you're selling, the services, your pricing, all of that. Yeah. And the driver, of course, the salespeople. And so if you, no matter how sophisticated your product is, how great your pricing is, how amazing your data collection, analysis, all of that is, if you do not have a great empowered driver, then it's not going to matter. But then again, you also need a car, a good car in the first place, right? To talk about a driver. So you kind of need the products to work. You need the pricing, right? You need all of those to be there as well. So we both, I mean, for you to achieve success or to build a successful team, you need both a good car and a great driver. But you definitely, because no matter the car, there would always be some form of challenge, right? There are things that can come up. There are things that can change even on the road. But you need a good driver, a great driver, to be able to navigate those challenges or whatever might come up at any time. So we're going to be focusing on 3 things. How do we identify the team we need? How do we empower that team to be high performing? And how do we retain? So in terms of identifying the team, I mean, the first question is, do we know what we need? Do we know what we're looking for? Do we know what we don't have when we think about the team? What roles? And to answer that question, we need to know, 1, what do you need? And what do you have? So in terms of what do you need, what roles do you need to fill? At the moment, when you look at your sales team or your sales organization, maybe you already have a great pipeline, but things are just not closing. Or things are closing, but things are closing really slowly. Or you have people who would actually, when they start, I mean, give them 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, they've closed the deal. But then when you look at the pipeline, yes, we're really excited for January, but we really don't have hope until maybe March or May. So what exactly do you need for your sales team? And then what do you have? So at the moment, do you have a closer? Somebody that just hand it over and go to sleep. This deal will be closed. Or you have someone who is really good with people so they can open conversations. But every time we have a meeting, I mean, the explanation for the close can be long, that you even have to, help them shorten it. Or you just have somebody who can, generate leads. But when you try to drill down to the quality of the leads, to what do these people do, what opportunities have we identified, they're a bit shaky. So, many times, the sales team is made up of different people at different levels. So 1, identifying what you need, and then identifying what you have. That then allows us to identify what's the gap. So what am I trying to fill? And when I can identify the gap, I can choose from 4 different things, right? And it could be more. I either need to hire, or I need to reshuffle, or upskill, or I need to fire. In terms of hiring, so if I identify what I need, and I don't have it already, then it means I need to hire. Now, how do you hire? First, you need to identify what's the role that you want to hire for. And then how do you source your candidates? Today, I do not hire a salesperson without a referral. It does not happen. It does not. It does not and will not happen ever again. I still remember the guy's name. It will not happen ever again. So how do you? So how do you source? Referral is a really good one. Or looking at organizations that you think you admire what they've done in terms of pushing their brand and pushing their products and things like that, and maybe trying to hire from those kinds of organizations and providing, a next level for people there. So yeah, poaching. So it's what it is, right? So those 2 are things that I know work. And then there's the rest of, what people do. And then in terms of reshuffling, if you then realize that, okay, at the moment, whoever is doing this is actually better at this. Or I have somebody in account management, but that person in account management has managed to unlock 5 additional opportunities in a really short time. So maybe that person is a good closer, right? So maybe I can move that person and try out. So you can reshuffle. But in reshuffling, 2 things to ensure is that there's clear communication and alignment on expectations. Alignment for you, expectations for the organization, and alignment for the person, right? Because for salespeople, they must really want to do what you need them to do if you're going to get the best out of it. Then for upskilling, you realize that the talent is there, some skill is there, but then you just need to, brush it up a bit. Then you invest in what? Coaching, or if you need to do external trainings and things like that. And then lastly is if you need to fire. And I mean, fire not because, you're not doing anything, leave. But just because sometimes having non-performers hang around for too long would start to impact the general energy of the team, right? So it's as important as finding the right person to also make sure that we do not delay in letting the wrong person go. And in deciding who to hire, I mean, when we think of non-performers, we categorize them into the can-dos, the won't-dos, and the don't-know-hows. And I think we all agree that the won't-dos are probably those ones we don't really need to think too hard. Just let them go, right? They're the first to go. So being able to identify what category, you do what you can for the can-dos, don't know how to train, to coach, and things like that, and then finally come to a decision. Now, in terms of thinking, whichever decision we make, whether it's to hire, to reshuffle, to upskill, there are certain things that matter in deciding who you pick, how you move people, who you train, or who you fire. Skills, experience, and attitude. So for skills, what are the things that matter for salespeople, right? Can you pitch? Can you communicate clearly? Can you communicate what you want to say in a concise manner that passes across the information? That's one. Two, can you generate leads, right? Not the ones who are waiting for God to. Can you generate leads? Where do you find them? Do you even understand the market? Those are the kinds of things. Listening is super important. In fact, there was a time I had a really good salesperson. Great. She would close any deal. She would go at it. In fact, she was a lot more assertive in her sales than I was even used to. So I loved her. But I could pick, when we go I sit in some of her meetings and things like that sometimes listening. So sometimes you go on and go on and go on. And I'm like, if you heard what the potential client said 3 minutes ago, you won't be going down this path. And you would have done A, B, C, or say, okay, no problem. So this is what I'll put together for you and send to you. Because somewhere in this conversation, they've communicated the only objection that they have to move on. So listening is super important. Sometimes things can go on for a really long time when they did not need to, just because salespeople don't listen. And then experience, right? You want someone who's experienced. Now, depending on your sector, your industry, the kind of market you're speaking to, the kind of clientele, do you want somebody with certain stakeholder management experience who can manage stakeholders across different regions? So do you want somebody with an experience, for example, with deals where, the finance team sits in MENA, the partnerships team sits in LATAM, and the person has the experience to manage all those engagements. Because, for example, if you deal with enterprise kind of clients, then that will be your reality. Someone who can manage all those engagements with the different time zones, with the different cultural, nuances, and still be able to bring that deal to a close. So those are things you want to be able to look out for. And then also someone who has maybe experience with complex deals. So do you deal with complex deals? Somebody who can manage all those things. Or, no, this one, just let it be straightforward. And if it's a straightforward deal, I just need to do this, agree the pricing, commercials, and this is what it's going to lead to. So those are the things to look out for. And then lastly, attitude. Oh, this one is everything. Right? You want salespeople that have grit, that will keep going and are able to motivate themselves. And then ownership, that will take charge of what they're doing, take charge of their results, take charge of their success. Like we talked about the drivers. And I'm going to double click on that a bit more. And then want people who would follow through. And then, of course, personality also matters. Personality matters. Your sales team, you can have someone who is zealous, who really cares about what they are doing and things like that. But if you need the person as an opener who goes to open conversations and opens things in the leads and prospects and things like that, and the person is a very strong introvert, right, who does not, you probably want to consider that in how you match the roles to the personality, but personality truly does matter. Now, we're going to empower, which is actually the most important part for me in this session. Personally, I've found that what's most effective in building a high-performing sales team is to empower the people to be drivers, to not feel like they have to depend on you, depend on the management, but that they are in charge of their success. They're in charge of how it goes. I mean, the term that I use is that for every part of the business, whether it's a vertical that people manage and things like that, you are the CEO. Like, you determine whether we'll pay salaries, right? So you are the CEO. What does that do? It gives them a 360 mindset. So it's not just about the engagements that I go to do in the market, but whatever needs to happen internally as well to ensure that that deal closes. I'm not waiting for the guy whose job is this or the lady whose job is that. No, I push, right? I go to have conversations. I engineer things because at the end of the day, I cannot come back and say, guys, we can't pay salary this month. So that deal needs to be closed, or I must close, or I must generate revenue. And so, inspire through action. Walk the talk. The best way to achieve empowerment and inspire your team is for you to actually walk the talk. As a founder, entrepreneur, as a head of sales, chief commercial officer, whatever the role, you need to be in front, closing deals yourself. Having conversations, engagements, opening the deals or opening the conversations with stakeholders that they probably might not have been able to access. But you have to be in front. That is the best way. There is nothing that good salespeople hate more than a leader or manager who is just a supervisor. You are there telling me what to do, doing performance review, open the CRM. This percentage is, there's nothing that they hate more than it's, But when you are there, you're in front, you're closing deals as well. So, I mean, it's not that you're trying to meet a target. What's the strategy? You find one, the big things, right? You close it so that when you talk, the team knows you know what you're saying. You've done it, right? This is not, what you're asking them to do is to basically just earn their salary. It's not like you're telling them to go and do what you cannot do or have not been able to do. Also, even as you try to train, upskill and things like that, attend a few meetings with them, right? Go with them. They're trying to unblock something in a conversation. Attend, have those conversations. It, one, inspires them, empowers them, right, and keeps them motivated. So inspire through action. Walking the talk is very important. So talking about empowerment, three things is to be able to build a sales culture. Building a sales culture, a growth-focused sales culture. How do you set targets that, one, balances both motivation and results? And then three, setting up, a competitive compensation package that drives both for performance and promotes loyalty. So in terms of a growth-focused sales culture, open communication, very important. We talked about empowerment. One of the ways to empower people is to give them access to information, communication. I mean, I know of companies where your sales, right, you don't know anything that is happening in ops. They say they are managing information. I can't even work there first, right? But you need to be able to empower. You need to be able to empower the people. So open communication. Why are we doing this? Why are we going after this? This is the vision. Why are we setting this target? Those things have to be clear. Ownership and accountability. That's very important, like I'd mentioned before, for people to actually take ownership and for us to be able to hold one another accountable. Resilience, teamwork. Meaning we must be able to, the way we would celebrate individual wins, we'd also find opportunities to celebrate team wins as well. And then continuous improvement. As part of OKRs for my team, every salesperson must have a personal development goal every quarter. And it ranks just as important as everything else. If not, at some point, what happens? Your tank gets empty, right? And then it just becomes garbage in, garbage out. But if I expect the company to move and where we're going to move, then the people who are contributing to that also have to grow and move forward. Then in terms of target setting, remember the goal is for you to drive both motivation and results. Many times, companies have the reputation of, set targets that we all know in heaven and earth will not be met, right? So how do we balance ambition with what's achievable and, what would actually motivate the team? So one, to be able to set targets properly, one, they definitely need to align with the company goals. So where does the company want to go to? What are the things we want to achieve? That's one. Two, market factors. So what are the market factors? What's happening right now, right? If we generate revenue in Naira, but our company goals are tied to USD, how do we adjust that, right? Before you set targets, how do we cater for that? Does that mean we need to enter into new markets? Should we find opportunities to actually generate revenue in USD? What are the ways? But market factors have to be taken into consideration. Then the team capacity. So at the moment, the people you have on your team. You know what they can do, right? So if you do not have somebody who can handle complex deals, close very big enterprise merchants, but they are good at what they do. But then you set a target that will probably require 1,000 of those customers to close or to arrive at. Then you see that things are not being balanced. So you also need to take into consideration the team capacity. And those are one of the things that would then inform, do you need to hire? Or maybe you just step out and be that salesperson yourself. And then finally, also the company product and assets. We talked about the car. So the car has to be a good car, right? How do we make sure that it works? And what role does, for example, for if you're on the sales leadership side, what role do you play in ensuring that that car works? Is that you bring feedback? Is that you understand the car and even use the car yourself to be able to bring market feedback that helps to improve it? And if you're a founder, right, then you also have control in sort of ensuring that that car works. Then setting up a competitive compensation package that drives performance, but also loyalty. Generally, when people try to describe salespeople, not very often does loyalty count as one of it, because the assumption is that they just move, and if you have a very good person can move and move with the business as well. But how do you set up a compensation structure that promotes both? So of course there's the basic pay, but then also having like a commission structure that encourages performance. There's usually, the way I think about it, there's the baseline, that's why you're earning a salary. So this baseline you first do, right? But then anything on top of that, having like a commission structure that's set up. And then also ensuring that whatever structure you've put in place is also profit-based and protects the bottom line. And then finally, a commission payout structure that encourages that loyalty. So maybe you don't pay too early, or you pay part of it at a certain time, and then you pay the rest maybe towards the end of the year and things like that. And then lastly, to retain these talents. So secret remember, great. So to retain these talents, apart from empowering them, because when we think of empowerment, it's for immediate performance. But when we think about retaining, that's for longevity, loyalty, and things like that. One, career progression pathways. It's important to have career progression pathways for your salespeople. When I look around sometimes, now it's beginning to get better. But when you see people that step into management and into leadership, right, is first of all maybe from finance, ops, that go up. And then the salespeople, for some reason, tend to then be considered as more ICs. Your salary will go up, but in terms of getting up into top management, it wasn't as great. And maybe it was also just the idea that, they were a bit just focused on trying to hunt and get revenue. But like I've said, it's actually one of the most sophisticated roles in the company. So deliberately creating career progression pathways for the salespeople. What does this mean for you? What is the next level? Ensuring that your salespeople are also not just focused on, killing or hunting or let them understand what's happening in the company. Let them understand how things work so that you also sort of prepare them to get into management and to leadership. And then engagement and feedback loop. Salespeople always want to know that they are being heard. That they are being heard and that they are being valued. So it's important to be open to feedback. They are the ones out there in the market. So when they come back to say, okay, this is how it is. I mean, sometimes it may not really align because they are salespeople, right? But maybe rather than just shutting it down, we send them back to go and actually analyze what they've come with. So when they come back with data, it will probably be obvious to them that it's not what they say it is, or it will be obvious to us that it is the way they've said it is, and so we need to make certain changes. And then lastly, having retention programs. Things like, longevity perks, like having equity. If you've stayed on to a certain period of time, you can have equity. Or also introducing bonuses. So aside from just commissions, but, bonuses that also help to promote that. So lastly, before I go, I think there's some work for us to do on the playbook. Page 8. Yeah. So before I go, 3 things I would like us to keep in mind. One is to inspire through action and walk the talk. That is very important. That's very important. That has a lot of power to make or mar how you build your team. And then 2 is empower the team to drive their own success. It's very important for them to be able to negotiate, for them to feel like they're in charge of their process. That helps, right? That really helps. In fact, many times you then see them doing things outside their primary job description just because they're like, no, this thing depends on me. I have to make it work. It's not about sales meeting, right? I really need to make it work. So that's super important to be able to achieve that. And then lastly, to ensure that they feel valued. To ensure that they feel valued. The moment a salesperson doesn't feel, especially if you have a good one, that doesn't feel valued, you would lose them. Maybe not physically immediately, but when you lose their minds, then, it's sort of like a downhill from there. Thank you.